What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Once again, Michael or Legacy Killer HD here, and today we have the top upcoming games of 2017. We're going to be looking at some of the biggest and best titles, some that you may have heard of and some maybe not. But I do ask, if you enjoy the video, make sure to smack that like button. Also, drop down the comments, let me know what upcoming game you're looking forward to the most in 2017 and why. Nonetheless, let's get started here at the number 15 spot with Absolver. It's a martial arts focused action role-playing video game developed by Slowcap, an indie game developer composed of former Ubisoft Paris employees. Players control warrior characters who fight other players and computer-controlled characters across the fictional land of Adele. To prove their worthiness of joining the Absolver Peacekeepers, the game story is focused on the human development of the characters as they fight to find their place in the collapsed empire. The game is said to have minor, massively multiplayer online game elements, including the feature of fighting alongside other players on quests and of directly fighting other players in player versus player matchups. Critics who were able to preview the game have compared the gameplay to Dark Souls and Street Fighter, and at E3 2016 the game was listed by journalists as one of the best in show, and some of the other accolades it picked up was Game Radar's best indie game of E3, but you can definitely see that the developers are going for a more fluid and dynamic gameplay, and so far it looks pretty amazing. It definitely stands out from a lot of the games that are coming out in 2017, and Absolver's premise makes it feel different in a lot of ways. Now to the number 14 spot we have Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. It's a medieval action role-playing game developed by Tailworlds Entertainment. The game is a prequel 200 years before Mount & Blade Warband. It takes place during the decline of the Calradian Empire and the formation of the kingdoms that appear in the previous games. The armor, weapons, and architecture will draw inspiration from 600 to 1100 AD. Bannerlord will include at least 6 major factions, each composed of competing clans with their own goals, as well as minor warband factions like mercenaries. Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord's graphics will be significantly improved from its predecessor, and the character animations are being created using motion capture technology, and the facial animations will be updated to improve upon the portrayal of emotions. And so far, based on some of the gameplay that we have seen, there have been a few major upgrades such as a new inventory interface and better artificial intelligence. The siege system has also been improved based on player feedback, and it looks to be that some of the characters will be voice acted. And with Mount & Blade Warband just recently coming over to the PS4 and Xbox One, I would expect to see that Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord releases for PC first and sometime later comes out for consoles. And it looks to be that Tailworlds Entertainment are taking their time on this next installment, working on a lot of the aspects that people were critical of with Mount & Blade Warband, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see what this game ends up looking like when it does release. And with this game having mod support, we're going to be once again unraveled with all the creativity that comes from the community, so I'm looking forward to the hours and hours of fun that I'll have with this. And at the number 13 spot we have Injustice 2. It's an upcoming fighting video game being developed by NetherRealm Studios. Injustice 2 retains numerous gameplay mechanics from Injustice Gods Among Us, including environment interaction, stage transitions, clashes, and character traits. It introduces also a loot dropping system known as the Gear System, which offers character-specific costume pieces and equipment with status-altering effects. Injustice 2 will continue the story established in Injustice Gods Among Us, following the defeat of High Counselor Superman. The alternate universe Batman and his insurgents attempt to piece back society while struggling against the remnants of Superman's regime who seek to restore his rule. In the midst of chaos, a new threat appears that puts Earth's existence at risk. In all honesty, I've never been too crazy about fighting games, but there was something special about Injustice Gods Among Us. Maybe it was the story, but I'm really liking what NetherRealm Studios will have planned for this sequel. But it's also interesting that they're going to be adding RPG-like elements. I really do wonder how it's going to be utilized, but so far it looks pretty fun, and it looks to be more than just slapping on a costume for a character. But now to the number 12 spot we have Kingdom Hearts 3. It's an action role-playing game developed and published by Square Enix. It's set after the events of Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance. Returning protagonist Sora is joined by Donald Duck, Goofy, King Mickey, and Riku in their search for the 7 Guardians of Light and the key to Return Hearts as they attempt to stop Master Xehanort's plan to bring about a second Keyblade War. Kingdom Hearts 3 will serve as the final chapter of the Dark Seeker saga. Along with some of the other existing worlds that we've already been introduced to, we'll also be seeing some newer additions, such as a Tangled-themed kingdom and a Big Hero 6 one. The game's director has stated that the gameplay will be reminiscent to Kingdom Hearts 2, and some of the new elements that have been shown off is traversal elements such as wall running and jumping, summons, Keyblade transformation, and team-up attacks, which combine Sora, Donald, and Goofy into one attack. Gamers have been eagerly awaiting this next installment in the Kingdom Hearts series, and it seems to be that we won't have to wait much longer. Now to the number 11 spot we have Horizon Zero Dawn. It's an action role-playing video game being developed by Guerrilla Games. The plot revolves around Aloy, a hunter and archer who lives in a world overrun by robots. Having been enclosed her whole life, she sets out to discover the dangers that kept her sheltered for so long. Aloy makes use of ranged and melee weapons and stealth tactics to combat the mechanized creatures whose remains can also be looted for resources. The game features an open-world environment for Aloy to explore, divided into tribes that hold side quests to accomplish, while the main story guides her throughout the whole world. And by far, this is one of the most beautiful games coming out in 2017, and so far it looks spectacular. trailer won a lot of awards at E3, one of those being Best of Show, and it really could be the best game coming out in 2017. And the premise of this title is very unique. You never expect to see mechanized dinosaur-like creatures overrunning the world. And what interests me the most is how all this will translate into the narrative of the game, because I do wonder how these mechanized creatures took over. Maybe through side quests or even exploring the open world will give us some of the secrets, or maybe it's just Skynet. Either way, this title is shaping to be one of the best games coming out next year. At the number 10 spot, we have State of Decay 2. It's a survival video game developed by Undead Labs. It's a bigger, badder, bolder, smoother State of Decay that you can play with your friends with. The world of State of Decay 2 is more dangerous and unpredictable than ever, so if you choose, you can work closely with up to 3 other players to build lasting communities and put your survival plan to the test. As with the original hit game, your choices will shape an interconnected world and form a unique experience every time you play. Dynamic game systems for character progression, base building, leadership promotion, and consequence-driven storytelling will result in a dramatic experience that tests your will to survive. And throughout the game, you'll experience a visually stunning and richly detailed world brought to life with the Unreal Engine 4. And State of Decay was a very intriguing game. I loved a lot of the aspects, just being that it's an open world, and it's all about survival and building up your own outposts and dealing with the zombie-infested world. With Undead Labs switching to the Unreal Engine 4, it's just gonna look a lot better and it's gonna feel a lot more immersive. And following the storyline, I'm curious to see what happens after we leave Trumbell Valley, maybe even finding out what exactly happened to the world. Now at the number 9 spot, we have Days Gone. It's an open world action-adventure survival horror video game in development by SIE Bend Studio. It's played from a third-person perspective, and players will control Deacon St. John, a drifter and former bounty hunter who prefers to live a dangerous life on the road over living in wilderness encampments. The game takes place 2 years after a global pandemic occurred which killed almost all of humanity, but transformed millions of them into freakers, mindless zombie-like creatures that are quickly evolving. Players are also allowed to use multiple ways to complete objectives, such as utilizing stealth for silent takedowns or taking the aggressive approach by using long and short-ranged weapons. Dynamic day-night cycles also feature in the game, which make freakers weak and slow during the day, but fast and aggressive during the night. Vehicles such as motorbikes can be used to explore the game's open world. Players are also able to craft new items to improve combat efficiency. This was one of the biggest surprises coming out of E3 2016, and it seems like Sony just keeps on delivering. But everything about this game has me hooked right now. But I am interested into our main protagonist, Deacon St. John. He seems like a very badass character, kind of like Daryl Dixon from The Walking Dead. And based on the trailers that we have seen, he has some type of love interest, and there's also somebody going after him or some type of hostile presence. So it'll be intriguing to learn their motivation and why they're after our main character. But so far, this is looking to be one of the biggest and best zombie open world games. Now to the number 8 spot, we have Detroit Become Human. It's a neo-noir thriller video game developed by Quantic Dream. The plot revolves around several playable characters, all of whom are androids. Among them, Kara, who escapes the factory she was made in to explore her newfound sentience, and Connor, whose job is to hunt down deviant androids like Kara. The characters may survive or perish depending on the choices that are made, which serve to shape the story as customized by the player. There are multiple playable characters in the game who can die as the story continues without them. As a result, there is no game over message following a character's death. The story will branch out depending on which choices are made. The more information one collects within a certain amount of time, the greater the chance of success will be in deciding a course of action. The game developer Quantic Dream are best known for Beyond Two Souls and Heavy Rain, which are considered some of the best video games ever made. That's why looking to Detroit Become Human, everybody is excited to see what they have in store, and it seems like there'll be a lot of replayability with this, as there's going to be a lot of choices within it. And this really is setting up to be one of the best non-linear story experiences ever. Now at the number 7 spot, we have Prey. It's a first-person shooter video game developed by Arcane Studios. The player takes the role of Morgan Yu, a human aboard a space station with numerous hostile aliens. The player will be able to select certain attributes of Yu, including gender, and decision made by the player will affect elements of the game's story. To survive, the players control Yu to collect and use weapons and resources aboard the station to fend off and defeat the aliens. Also stated that the aliens will have an array of different powers that the player character can gain over time. One such alien has the ability to mimic everyday items such as a chair. And Arcane Studios has said this game will be more of a psychological game rather than a horror one. Years ago, we were shown a Prey 2 cinematic trailer, and a lot of us were getting pumped up for that game, but unfortunately it got cancelled, and here we are in 2017, Arcane Studios has taken over, and they are making a reimagining of the Prey series. They've done a phenomenal job with the Dishonored franchise, which is why I think Prey will turn out to be a great game. But based on the community's response so far to the new Prey, it seems like a lot of people wanted to see that Prey 2 instead, and I mean, seeing that you can turn yourself into a cup to get places is something that I don't think everybody exactly saw in a new Prey game. Now to the number 6 spot, we have God of War. It's a third-person action-adventure video game in development by Santa Monica Studio. The game will be a soft reboot for the franchise and will take the series to the world of Norse mythology. Kratos will return as the main character, and he now has a son. Kratos acts as a mentor and protector to his son and has to master the rage that has driven him for many years. This new installment will be single-player only. The game will feature elements similar to role-playing role-playing games such as archery knowledge points, as well as Spartan Rage timed ability during battle. This ability appears to be a new take on the Rage ability of the previous installments, and there is also said to be crafting resources for the player to find. This definitely appears to be a fresh take on the God of War franchise, and I gotta say I'm excited. Even before seeing the trailer, I love Norse mythology, so it's gonna be a lot of fun to explore. Being able to battle new creatures, monsters, and gods sounds pretty darn good to me, and the gameplay is said to be completely reworked. It's gonna be completely different compared to its predecessors, but either way, I think the most important part about this game is gonna be Kratos and his son's relationship, and experience how he'll be able to move away from his past and teach and protect his son. Now at the number 5 spot we have Star Citizen. It's a space sim video game for PC being developed by Cloud Imperium Games. It's planned to consist of 4 main components: first-person space combat, mining, exploration, and trading with first-person shooter elements in a massively multiplayer persistent universe and customizable private servers, and a branching single-player and drop-in cooperative multiplayer campaign titled Squadron 42. It's being directed by Chris Roberts, who's best known for Wing Commander, which Squadron 42 is actually its spiritual successor. The storyline centers on an elite military unit and involves the player character enlisting in the United Empire of Earth Navy, taking part in a campaign that starts with a large space battle. The game is planned to be released in multiple chapters, and Squadron 42 will include Hollywood talent playing characters. Some are Gary Oldman, Mark Hamill, Mark Strong, Gillian Anderson, Andy Serkis, and many more. And the game will also feature a persistent universe module which will allow players to explore the open world that's been created. This has already been one of the biggest games of all time, and it's only getting better and better. There are some things that they do need to improve on, such as the first-person shooter element, but looking at this game thus far, it looks absolutely magnificent. From a graphical perspective, it looks beautiful, and all the features and modules included really sets up for this game being one of the biggest games of all time, and eventually we're going to get all the pieces interconnected, and finally Star Citizen will be complete, and hopefully from there on they'll be updating the game, adding cooler and newer features. Now at the number 4 spot we have Mass Effect Andromeda. It's an action role-playing third-person shooter video game developed by BioWare. It is the first game in the Mass Effect series to feature an open world. The game takes place 600 years after the events of the first 3 Mass Effect games in the Andromeda Galaxy. A new protagonist, male or female, who are the children of Alec Ryder, who is an N7 Special Forces soldier, is designated as a Pathfinder, an operative tasked with discovering a new planet for the human race to colonize. Players will be able to pilot the new and customizable 6-wheeled buggy-type vehicle Mako to explore the new planets featured in the game. The game features various planets for players to explore, with each having their own characteristics. Similar to its predecessors, the game features a dialogue tree, choices, romantic relationships with the companions, and cooperative multiplayer. Now I think most of us can agree after Mass Effect 3, a lot of us had a sour taste in our mouth, so it's going to be nice to go to a new universe in the Mass Effect series and experience a new story. Everything that I've heard about this game so far gets me excited. I love the fact that it's going to be open world. Some of these planets really look mysterious, and it's going to be a lot of fun to venture through their worlds and figure out the secrets that are within. And it looks to me that BioWare is taking their time, probably polishing it up, which makes me hopeful that they'll deliver a grand experience for us all. Now to the number 3 spot we have Spider-Man. It's an open world action adventure video game based on the Marvel comic superhero Spider-Man, and it's being developed by Insomniac Games. The game will tell an entirely new story about Spider-Man and is not tied to any film or comic book. The game will cover both the Peter Parker and Spider-Man aspects of the character and will feature a more experienced Spider-Man. The game will take place in an open world New York City. Players will be able to use Spider-Man's well-known abilities such as web slinging and wall crawling, as well as new gameplay elements unseen in previous Spider-Man games. And one of the new gameplay elements will be the ability to traverse using parkour. Now I've touched on this briefly in the past, but Spider-Man 2 in the PS2 days was so much fun. That's why I'm excited to see what Insomniac Games has for us. And hearing that we're going to have an experienced Spider-Man who's been through some things, that's very interesting because we have not seen that before. It always seems to be this high school Spider-Man who's just going through puberty, and maybe that means Uncle Ben does not have to die again, or it's just a flashback. Now with this game not being tied to any film or comic book, I'm going to be looking to see what type of characters will be featured. Will we see Mary Jane as the love interest? Will Jonah Jameson still be Spider-Man's boss or be featured? And if he is in the game, please bring J.K. Simmons to take his role. He's born for it. And in terms of villains, will we see Venom or maybe a character that we haven't seen before? There's a lot of characters in the Marvel universe that I would love to see Spider-Man face off with. Either way, this game has a lot of potential, and it'll be cool to see if we get more superhero games like this in the future. Now to the number 2 spot we have Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's an action-adventure video game under development by Nintendo for the Wii U and the company's upcoming Switch. The story is set in Hyrule and follows protagonist Link, who awakens from a 100-year slumber to a mysterious voice that guides him on a quest to defeat Calamity Ganon. The game will be using an advanced physics engine, and you'll also have the ability to play through the game's dungeons in any order. The open-world environment is approximately 12 times larger than the overworld in Twilight Princess, with less emphasis on defined entrances and exits to areas. Throughout the game, Link will be possessing a piece of technology known as the Sheikah Slate, which provides players with a map and allows Link to create waypoints and investigate enemy stats. By discovering various runes, this technology can be upgraded with various powers, including creating bombs, bombs, controlling objects with magnetism, and stopping time around objects and enemies. Nintendo is looking to have a huge year in 2017 with the launch of the Nintendo Switch and obviously this new Legend of Zelda game. I have some very fond memories of playing some of the earlier Zelda games with my father, so it's going to feel a little nostalgic finally diving back into the Legend of Zelda universe. But what Nintendo has done so far, it looks phenomenal. I'm excited finally to get into a Nintendo game. It seems like it's been years since I've been able to say that, but hopefully this is just the beginning for Nintendo going in the right direction. Now to the number 1 spot, we have Red Dead Redemption 2. Finally, back to the Wild West we go. It's an open-world western action-adventure third-person shooter video game developed by Rockstar Games. Red Dead Redemption 2 is described as being an epic tale of life in America's unforgiving heartland. The game's vast and atmospheric world will also provide a foundation for a brand new online multiplayer experience. We haven't heard too much about Red Dead Redemption 2, but there has been some very convincing leaks that have come in recent months. One of those being the world map of this next Red Dead title, which was confirmed to be the real deal by Tech Radar. Even within this trailer of this upcoming game, a lot of the locations back up with this map. And some of the other interesting details coming from this leaked map are some of the locations that hint to a major Native American presence. And another interesting leak is a concept art image that came from a portfolio of a Rockstar Games employee. A lot of people assume that this could be a Red Dead Redemption remaster, but it appears based on the assets that are used in this image that this in fact is an early image of Red Dead Redemption 2. And the last and another interesting leak comes from a former Rockstar Games employee's portfolio, which contained character concept art of an unnamed western game. But Rockstar Games did release the poster of Red Dead Redemption 2, and it also has some very noticeable characters, such as Bill Williamson, Dutch Vanderlyn, and John Marston, so there's an assumption that this game will be a prequel, and we could be experiencing Dutch's gang. But either way, Red Dead Redemption 2 is appearing to be the biggest and best game in 2017. Rockstar Games just delivers amazing games, and they've been working on this for years now. It seems like they took their time to make sure that they didn't have any delays. That's why I think in fall of 2017, when this does release, a lot of us will be immersed in a giant open world experience. But anyway, I want to thank you so much for watching. Make sure you smack that like button if you did enjoy the video or found any informative value. Also, drop down in the comments, let me know what upcoming game you're looking forward to the most in 2017 and why. And if you have not already, subscribe for a lot more additional upcoming games videos, and I'll see you later.